everybody, I'm Katie.
And I'm Becky, and this is Live, Laugh, Lorcana.
I really thought you were going to do a deserve.
No, not today, Katie, not today.
But if you don't know that reference, you should go check out our Shimmering Skies reveal on Instagram or TikTok, where Becky does a fantastic character of Detective Herb.
So, what's good, Katie?
Well, it's set championship month.
True.
You had an adorable story from set championships.
Oh, yeah, it was really fun. I was playing a kid, and he's probably like 12 or something, and it was really cute. He was playing Steel Song, and I was playing kind of like an aggro thing. And so I had like a bunch of little guys on my field, and they were just out there. And he goes to draw for his turn. He's like, you know what I'm hoping to get? And I'm like, is it grab your sword? And he's like, it's grab your sword. So he draws, and I'm like waiting. I'm like, if you pull to grab your sword, I'm going to flip this table. And he's like, did I? And like, it was really funny. But then he plays it, and it's a whole new world. So I was like, oh geez. So he draws again, and I'm just like waiting. I'm like, I know he got it this time. And he like makes a big production of it. And then he has one of his characters uh sing a whole new world again. And it was just so funny. And then he finally got to grab your sword and played it. And it was so stinky.
That's pretty epic. I love those kids that get like really excited about stuff like that.
Honestly, it was a really fun game. And we ended up going, I got one, he got two. And like I legit was like, that was such a fun game. Like, thanks for that. That was really fun. And I felt good about it.
It's a pretty adorable story.
And I got recognized from Lorecast.
Oh, wow.
So kind of a big deal. But yeah, fun stuff. We all love it.
Yeah, so set championships, I didn't want to go. Like, I just really didn't want to go to set championships this time, and that came down to not feeling prepared. It's been really hard for me to play the game very much with Pixelborn going away. That's honestly how I played a lot of my games, because I have a busy life. I could, maybe cram in a half an hour in the evening and just do a bunch of games. So a lot of times that's all I played, a half an hour a day. And I just can't do that anymore. Webcam games take a lot of time to set up. I'm also an introvert, so those are kind of like hard for me. So like I really haven't played many games. I really don't have time to go to League more than once a week. And I just didn't feel prepared for set champs. And like one of my character flaws is that I don't like to do things I'm not prepared for. So I did not want to go to set champs.
Totally reasonable.
But I did, because you and Caitlin were going, and then I got there and I just like panic set in, and I was like trying to talk you guys into going to lunch with me instead of playing.
I'm pretty sure you were trying to talk us into margaritas, but same thing, really.
Yeah, I did try to talk you into margaritas, and you were like, I don't drink. And I was like, queso?
I do like queso.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair. I will go on record saying that it is not possible for someone such as myself to ever be competitive in this game until there is an online client. And that's tea.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I went through the stages of grief with Pixelborn going away. I really did. But I'm through it now. I'm into acceptance. But part of that acceptance is knowing the way that I am and the way my life is. I can't be a competitive player of Lorcana anymore, which is okay. Like, I'm not like upset about that. I'm not like, oh, you better have an online client. We're not going to play your Lorcana. It's more like, oh, I need to think about how I want to approach Lorcana now, because it's not the same as it was. It can't be the same as it was before. So I'm like trying to find ways to find joy in it outside of the competition. I finally built a theme deck. I've been threatening building a theme deck since set one, and I never had. That's so embarrassing. I've never built a theme deck. I finally built my first theme deck. I finally built my first street rat deck since set one. Like, I'm actually, just trying to make decks and play for fun, play at the kitchen table with my husband, try to like play casually with people at League. That's what I'm focusing on right now.
Are you having fun?
I'm having fun. Yes, I need to find more people who want to do that with me.
Kind of hard.
It is. It's really hard.
Katie, are you even having fun if you're not winning?
It's hard for me to have fun without winning. It really is. I'm a competitive person. I'm a perfectionist.
That's true, you are. A very good one, generally.
Yeah, generally. That's what, like, I was valedictorian in college because that's how much I like to study and be prepared for things. So just like not having those tools is hard. But I'm trying to learn to have fun with things. So
yeah, you do have trouble relaxing as well for that reason. And that's also why like content creation has been kind of a lot for you because you want to do it perfect.
Yeah, I guess we can transition into that conversation.
We don't have to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we have to have it. So
we're having.
No, that's perfect. Another thing that's hard for me is this podcast. Just like we've talked about before, I have social anxiety. So like anytime we have a guest on the podcast, it's actually very stressful for me. I'm also like an introvert. So one of the things that comes with being an introvert is that it's sometimes hard for me to express myself in words. So I have to really think about what I'm going to say on the podcast beforehand. Like a lot of things about having a podcast just don't go along with my personality. And it's been very hard for me. And for a long time, I made myself do it because I didn't feel like there were any other women voices in podcasting for Lorcana. But we've seen so many pop up, since the game started, just more and more women have come into the community, like on whether it's podcasts, YouTube's, Twitter. We have a Love to Lore Discord now. So I don't like feel like I have to do it as much as I used to feel like I have to do it. All that has led to the decision for me of stepping back from the podcast. I am going to take a break from the podcast. I don't want to say like I'm never coming back to the podcast because that's a crazy world. I could regret it and be like, oh, we need to do that podcast again.
Katie isn't actually stepping back from the podcast because podcast is being disbanded. We were saying you're leaving. I'm not doing it without you. It's not like.
But you could though. I mean, I've been trying to get you to find a new co-host since November.
I have no interest in that. Zero.
So Becky might be back with a new co-host, but probably not.
Unlikely. But if you'd like to apply, I'm just kidding. Don't apply.
I don't care. Becky's gonna throw your application in the trash.
No, I won't. No, I'll review them and we can collaborate in some other fashion.
Yes, but I had so much fun making our reveal video. I do want to play around with some video content. So follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I'm going to try to post things there.
Previously, I've kind of done like the reveal teasers, but Katie did them this time. Katie did all the editing for the reveal. And it was really cool. And you seemed really excited about it and you seemed to have fun with it. And that was just like really refreshing because I hadn't seen that from you in making content, at least on the podcast, in a while.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The podcast doesn't quite like scratch that creative itch. Because this is something we did when we were kids. I would write skits. I'd make Becky perform them, and because if you've seen our reveal video, Becky's an amazing actress, and then I would edit it. Like, how many times have we done that?
A few, yeah. It's been a lot over the years. So yeah, who knows what's in store for us? Not this, but something else.
But something. Follow us on social media, and you'll find out as we find out. I mean, it's the same with like me trying to find fun in casual. It's like I want to find fun in creating Lorcana content. So
the fun era of Lorcana. Our sweaty era is over.
That's what this was. It did feel like it.
A little bit sweaty. Mm-hmm. I mean, not for me, but for you, for sure.
Oh my gosh, remember when we used to do them weekly? I was dying.
I know. Yeah, that didn't last very long. Or maybe it did. I don't know.
It's 12 weeks or so, I think.
Yeah, it's a long time. And look at us now.
32 episodes.
Is there any soapboxes you'd like to get on and put out into the world? Is there any bridges you'd like to burn? Trees you'd like to cut?
The only thing I would say is like, just like, we're all here doing this in our spare time. So whether you're playing Lorcana, whether you're making content, make sure you're having fun with it.
Yes, it's not worth doing if you're not having fun. I don't know. I think that's really important to be able to be like, these were my limits. Or like, yeah, it's really powerful to not feel like you have to keep going with something just because you've been doing it, and you can stop and be like, yeah, this isn't bringing me joy. Yeah, I know like people enjoy this, but I'm not. And so like I'm going to stop. And I think that's big and special and important. And I've really enjoyed this past year. This has probably been the best thing I've ever been part of. And it was really fun doing it with Katie. She's the best. She's the sweetest. Um, I think we did something really good here. I think we made at least a little bit of a positive impact in some people's lives. And I feel like that's kind of like a really humbling, sort of amazing thing for somebody to do, that we possibly made a stranger's life a little better simply for having done this. And it's magical and wonderful. So thank you for
That's,
giving us the opportunity.
yeah, that's a really good point. I would not have made it because I realized very quickly I did not enjoy the process of making a podcast and editing it. But I still loved the like doing it the last year because of the amazing people who took the time to listen to us and to talk to us about our content and to join our Discord and talk to us there or comment on social media. Like I can't like it's been so special to be a part of this community. I can't even put it into words.
Hmm.
And we still are. We're not leaving. We're not leaving content creation. It's just this type of content is taking a indefinite break.
Yes, that makes sense. I guess we're still Live Laugh Lorcana, but what is Live Laugh Lorcana? Well, it's not a podcast, but it is something.
We're going to be living and laughing.
And Lorcana-ing, probably.
Exactly.
Do you want to do our final listener questions?
Yeah, let's not leave anybody hanging. Let's do some listener questions.
Martin Carb asks, with the general consensus from the Yu-Gi-Oh community that the game is dying, what game out of the new big three, considered to be Flesh and Blood, Lorcana, and One Piece, do you think has the ability to take over the Yu-Gi-Oh spot?
I don't know everything about TCGs, but I'm pretty sure it's not Fab because I was part of that scene for a very long time. And I still think it's one of the best competitive games, but they never figured out their casual scene. And I don't think they could ever be hanging with the big three at that. Do you have a take on this question?
We know I don't know anything about TCGs. I still don't. I think Lorcana definitely has potential. I feel like the novelty of Lorcana is worn off a little bit with like a lot of people. I think the next year is going to be pretty pivotal in terms of its staying power.
I think 100% Lorcana has the potential to be in the big three, even without this Yu-Gi-Oh is dying, as is alleged in this question. I would have said that it could be up there ahead of Yu-Gi-Oh just based on how popular the IP is. So for me, it really comes down to how well can Disney convert people who don't normally play TCGs. Like I just don't have a sense of how good they're going to be at that. If they can do it, I think yes, it can be in the big three.
Yeah. And then One Piece I know is very popular very quickly, but I just don't know enough about it to be able to say anything for sure. But I hear it's great.
Yeah, same. Also, Becky, do you know something all the big three games have in common? Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh.
What?
An official digital client. All the big three have a digital client. I don't know if that's correlation or cause and effect, but like,
Just saying. Just saying, guys. Just kidding. I don't care. So yeah, we'll see. That'd be fun. We love it. Xander Archer says, would you want Disney cast members to be judges at Disney Worlds or at fan events if they were at the park? I think that sounds kind of fun.
like on duty cast members being. judges? Is that the question?
I interpreted it as such.
Yeah, I would just be, I feel like that's going to be too expensive. Because if they have on duty like cast members, like they have to pay them. I like the idea. I don't see it happening.
And then, if they do fan events, would you buy a plushie Big Little Taylor?
Absolutely.
Obviously. That's the thing. It must be a licensing issue or something. Like Disney's like, you can have IRP for cards, maybe pins, just a couple, make them very hard to get. But like the merch would be insane. They know how much Disney collectors love to collect. Give us stuff. We'll buy it. Like feral for it. Literally anything. If it has Lorcana on it, we'll buy it. So maybe excited to see where that goes because they need to get on that because could use me some things.
Absolutely.
And can you think of a specific Lorcana card that you would like as a plushie? Honey Wizard Pooh.
Oh, that's a good one. I, of
Yeah.
course, will choose Tamatoa, Drab Little Crab.
So cute. That'd be really cute. He's just a baby.
There are so many that I want, though.
Oh, 100%. I would buy literally any of them. Even if it's a card I'm like, meh on, I'd be like, give it to me.
Yeah, we'll spend way too much money on this plush line.
Yeah, 100% agree. Ravensburger makes wonderful puzzle pieces. Now that they are expanding the world of Lorcana, can you think of a location or scene that would you like to see a puzzle of? I think the Illuminary obviously would be super cool.
That was my first thought as well.
But there's also some like cars that I just really like the art of, which I would like to see. A lot of them. I mean, anything that's made of playmat of would probably.
I thought
make a
that I
nice
was just
puzzle.
thinking of that. Which Encanto card got the playmat? Was that Look at This Family? But that's like
Yes,
beautiful. I would love to see that as a playmat or as a puzzle.
for sure. I go through things with puzzles where I'm like into puzzles for like a month and then I don't play them for a few years. But I'm actually really good at puzzles. And I think in a different world, I could have been a competitive puzzler.
It's not too late. You can do that.
Now I'm getting old, my eyes are going. Jess asks, at some large events for the Yu-Gi-Oh card game as entertainment, they'll have scripted duels, essentially where they have voice actors from the anime act as their characters from the show and run through a script for a duel as if their characters are playing while staffers handle the actual cards and play out the turns. It's really cute. She shared an example video. How would you feel about Disney voice actors doing something similar to this at Lorcana fan events or challenges? I think it would be really fun. You'd have to hand wave their characters being Illumineers as well as Glimmers, but imagine like Ariel versus Ursula or Aladdin versus Jafar, or even do like a cute Aladdin versus Jasmine, where like Aladdin takes the early lead and gets cocky and Jasmine destroys him in the end, but it's all fun and the game ends with them being schmoopy. What do you think? Sounds fun to me.
Did you look at this link?
I did. Did you know when I was 14, I thought Eric Stewart, the voice of Seto Kaiba, would marry me?
I did not know that, but I did guess that for some of your passwords successfully at some point, so I'm not surprised.
He was like 32 and I'm 14. Like, God, eighth graders, am I right? Anyway.
Yes, this video has Eric Stewart and Seth Green, the voices of Yuki and Kaiba, doing this duel. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. I think it'd be fun to see something like that. I'm gonna be honest, Katie. I really, 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 really want the Illumineers as face characters at fan events, though. Would love that.
Yes. Yeah, I would love that. That's kind of what I got stuck on for this question, is because that's who it should be, the Illumineers, not like Disney voice actors. So I guess the Illumineers could be Disney voice actors, but they're unknown names at this time.
I would love to be one of those. I should audition whenever they're doing those. I'm gonna go for the girl.
You absolutely should. Please do it.
Yeah, I'll start workshopping it. Jimothy asks, for those of you who go to League, how do you find ones that are casual and newbie friendly? The closest one to me is a sports hobby shop, and unfortunately, they don't do Lorcana yet, but the regulars are a bit intimidating and super competitive. Yesterday, I found a place like about an hour drive from me, which holds Tuesday night leagues. I asked the owner, and I appreciate that he was honest and said the environment is mostly competitive. Is it normal to pay $30 a night for these things? I'm trying to be budget conscious as well. Start with that $30. Absolutely not, unless they're giving out boxes.
Unless it's sealed. Like if you're playing like a sealed, maybe even a draft, like I could see a price tag where you're like getting 3 to 6 packs. But
Just for League.
yeah, if you're playing League and you're bringing your own deck, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen higher than 15, unless it was like a 1K or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's tournament price.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would personally play more than 10, but that's just me.
Yeah. Usually more money is more prizing. So,
Right.
and I'm sure it's different where if you live in a big city or something, but
True. How do you find casual spaces, Katie? We don't know.
I don't know. If you find out, you tell me,
Yeah,
please.
Timothy, you let us know if you find any because we are interested. I think kind of what you did where you go and you ask, like, what's the vibe here? I think that's helpful.
Hmm.
But I don't know. There's really like, unless you live in a major city, there's really only like a couple shops within driving distance to you maximum. There's just like really, it's going to be hit or miss. There's just simply not a whole lot of options.
It does sound like Disney Lorcana is going to be having some answers for things like this soon. That is the rumor. They're going to have some guidelines to develop these kinds of spaces in locals, which I'm cannot wait for. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm really
So,
excited about that too. Timothy also asks, how do you organize your cards? My friend organizes his by color. I organize mine by set and reference number, which is also organized by color per set.
yeah, I also go by set first in case they introduce rotation. If they're going to introduce rotation, I feel like they should have told us by now. Like, be like, hey, these cards you're buying, they have a finite amount of time they're available for. Like I feel like they should tell us.
That's a good point. Didn't know how rotation worked. I mean, like, I know what it is, but I didn't know that they tell you.
Right. Well, I mean, it's established in like Magic, like exactly. It's like the last 2 years with like a rolling window for a third year. I don't know, but it's very clear ahead of time.
Interesting. I also organize by set and then color and rarity.
Same, same.
I have one binder per set.
I finally started putting my cards away because remember they were on tables. So I have almost all of them in trove boxes now. I'm almost done. I'll take a picture when it's all done.
Yeah, I put all my bulk into trove boxes after 4 copies per card is, yeah. I have playset binders, I guess. Except they're not complete at all. Now, Jake from 40born asks, how does Flesh and Blood handle bans, restricted, errata? What is an example of a ban in Flesh and Blood that you loved/hated? Well, me personally, just kidding. It's not for me. Go ahead, Katie.
I love it when you pretend to talk about that. Go ahead, tell us about that.
I don't know. There's like a little ninja card that you showed me. That's all I got. There was a couple outfits I was trying to get you to cosplay for, but that's all I know about Fab. Your turn.
That's more than most people. Yeah, so bands, would come out. They'd be like, hey, don't play these cards anymore. We're adding them to the ban list. Our next ban announcement will be on this date. And then you would know you're safe until that time. Restricted, where they say instead of you can't play this at all, you can only have 1 copy. They don't do that in Fab, which I appreciate because I don't really like restricted lists. Just because it's like if it's busted, like it's still gonna feel bad when it does come out. You're just making it really random. You're not actually fixing the problem. You're just making it like only happen half the time. And errata, yes. So it is not really normal to have errata as extensive as the one for Bucky. I understand why they were doing that because they're, back printing a lot of the old sets in other countries. There's only one time that I recall that Fab used errata to change the functionality, and it was like a very small change. Instead of whenever, it was like the first time this happens a turn. So it was like minor like that, which is more how I would expect errata to go normally. Do you want to chime in? I feel like I've been talking a long time. Bucky, errata.
I like it when you talk a lot. People are here to listen to you, not me, TBH.
I don't think that's true.
You're the information, I'm the chaos. I don't know. I don't have any thoughts. Harada, Shramon.
How did you, as a new player who isn't used to like, how do you feel about the Bucky errata?
It's not errata. But like, isn't errata like when there's a mistake on the card and you change it?
Like, oops, spelled this wrong.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, this card that we beat is actually not that at all. It's gonna do all this other stuff. I don't know. I just feel like that was a misnomer personally, but
Yeah, it's kind of a not normal use of an errata.
yeah, so that's how I feel. I don't know. Yeah, it was fine, but I think there were ways around Bucky. I don't know. I didn't think necessarily he needed to be nerfed quite so hard, but you know, what do I know?
I mean, I'm fine with him being nerfed that hard. It would have just been easier to ban. Just because, like, for new players, when you, like, it's really easy to be like, hey, here's a list of ban cards, just check this so you know what not to put on your deck. But if they find an old version of Bucky and build the deck around it, that's really unfortunate to be like, oh, hey, that card that's changed in 3 ways that makes it so nothing you built really
It's
makes
actually not
sense.
that at all. Yeah.
Example of a ban, even though only Fab players will appreciate this, but an example of a ban in Fab that I loved was Winter's Whale. There was a deck, Oldham, that was really powerful for a very long time, and they banned his signature weapon. And people were like, how can you ban a hero's signature weapon? But it was awesome because he was just way too powerful, and that helped. As for a ban I hated, to be honest, there's never been a ban that I hated. I'm almost always glad to see them because it was like, yes, that card was so oppressive. It was making this game worse to play. I'm so glad it's banned. I've never hated a ban in Fab. The only time I've hated something related to bans is when they refused to ban Crown of Seeds for so long, because there was this card that was like clearly busted, and they would even explain like, oh, we kind of know it's busted, but it's a legendary. And like Flesh and Blood is different, where legendaries are like super super rare. Like there's usually only like one in a whole case. So they're like, we don't want to ban a legendary, and they eventually did, but it was like a really really long time. We had to play with this busted legendary.
Oh, is it like enchanted? Really?
They're like armor stuff that you would never need four of. Is the legendaries in Fab, so it's okay that they're that rare.
That makes sense. Martin Carve asks, how do y'all feel about other players from other games jumping into Lorcana? I think we've touched on this a little bit before. Be cool. If you're just here for prizes of monetary value, I mean, that's your prerogative, but like, I don't know. At least come like with the vibe. I don't know.
I mean, that's exactly right, right? Like the more the merrier, but like this is a Disney card game, so if we could all try to have fun with it,
That'd
let's
be
try to
great.
have fun with it. Let's try to be nice to each other and make everyone feel welcome and all those good feelings you associate with Disney.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree with that for sure. Tempest George asks, if you guys have it, what are some of your favorite things to watch on Disney Plus? Katie, do you have Disney Plus?
I do. Honestly, just the classic Disney movies that I rewatch sometimes are my favorite thing to watch on there. Though we recently watched all of the Star Wars shows, which were pretty good. Andor's my favorite. That's kind of a controversial answer, I think. I know Jedi Geek Girl hates it, but I love Andor. It's so good.
Hmm. I also have Disney Plus. I read a thing that was like 30% of Disney Plus consumption is people watching Bluey.
That's
I
so
thought that was pretty
funny.
interesting.
That's funny.
We've watched Bluey. We don't use it as much as we should. Probably Cody, my husband, uses it the most. He also enjoys the Star Wars shows. Acolyte, is that on there? I think he's been watching that.
Yeah.
So, Star Wars, that's our answer. And Bluey! Jimothy asks, have you guys experienced cards with lighter art? I opened a pack recently and the print on it looked slightly faded, making it more light than the other copies of the card I had. Pack Tactics.
Pack Tactics. I ordered a Pack Tactics on TCG Player, and I'm opening the cards, and like I'm like, this card feels different. It feels different. And then I had a regular Pack Tactics like already, so like my husband and I were like both like, like staring so intently at the art on both. Like the art was like lighter, like he's saying. Even like the art, like the back's art, like everything just looked different. It felt completely different. My husband was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is fake, but the only way you can tell for sure is to look at the core. Cut it in half, see what's in between the cardboard sheets. That's usually how you can tell if it's fake or not. So I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm ripping this thing open. And turns out it wasn't fake. It was a legit card that I just ruined. So
Beautiful. So some of them are like different printers, I guess. I don't know how it works. But just know if you have one that's slightly faded, it is probably still okay.
mhm.
Martin Carf asks, are all the guests new best friends, or did that start with Adara and end with JGG?
No, all of our guests are our best friends. That's why we have guests. It's to make more best friends.
Because we're very shy. So we're just trying to accumulate more friends.
Yeah.
Honestly though, I mean, we've made close friendships with a lot of the people who have been on our show. Often them being on our show is kind of a catalyst to a larger discussion. So it's been really, really nice having that. Everyone's super nice who we've had on the show. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. It was just an excuse to slip into their DMs. So
Do you want to be on our show? We like talking to you. And then we keep messaging them. I'm just kidding. We don't. Sometimes. Rav Garrett asks, at what point do you concede a game? I'm going to answer first, okay?
I was hoping you would. I'm really curious.
So this is so stupid. I wait till the last turn. And I don't care what I'm playing. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna draw a card because maybe there's a be prepared in my in my Amber Sapphire deck I don't know about. I'm gonna draw and see what happens. And then usually I'll realize that I can't do anything and concede, but I do wait till the last minute. Which I think is probably maybe I'm a time waster, I don't know. But I do want to draw that last card.
Yeah, so I think for me, context is different. So like if you're in a competitive environment and if you're not worried about time, if you're worried about time, that's like different. But if you're not worried about time, I don't concede because like you never know what's going to happen. Like there are situations where people truly miscount the amount of lore they have on board and challenge when they should have quested. Like that has happened in games before. It's rare, but it happened. So like I don't care if I see my opponent can win next turn. Like let's see if you know that you have game. But yeah, with casual, I think I'm pretty much the same as you.
Jimothy asks, this might be a dumb question, but do casual and regular players usually use their playmats? How common is playing card games with sleeves and or playmats? I feel like I'm going to be judged when I show up with unsleeved cards in my pocket. Okay, I'm going to be honest. As a relatively new player, I initially thought the playmats were really stupid. I didn't get it. I didn't know why people had them. I wanted one simply because everyone else had one. So Katie gave me one of her Flesh and Blood mats. But now I have my own. And I forgot one once. And you know what? I didn't really miss it. So I like the playmat simply because I like the art. Sleeves, however, very different. Yeah, you need sleeves, unfortunately. It is just one of those things, which is, God, I hate having to sleeve stuff. In a perfect world, I would have all of my cards pre-sleeved. I'd have like a couple thousand of the exact same sleeve. Everything's pre-sleeved in the binders all the time, and I just pull them out and change the individual sleeves when they're damaged. Because I hate changing decks simply because I hate sleeving. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But yeah, you would definitely be judged if you don't have them. The only people I've ever seen at League who don't have sleeves is because they just got to the store and they bought a starter deck and then they came over to see what it was about.
I don't think you'll be judged. Also, don't judge anybody. Like if you show up with like unsleeved cards in a Ziploc bag, ready to play, I'm like, let's go, let's have some fun. So no judgment ever.
I wouldn't judge. I'm just saying other people are very adamant about it.
You definitely do want sleeves though, just to keep your cards nice, because the edges are going to get frayed so quickly when you're shuffling them. Like it's just too easy to mess up the edges. Just Put them in sleeves to protect them. I would highly recommend that. But yeah, you're so right about playmats because the reason I was told I needed a playmat was like to protect the cards. Like if something's on the table, like put that down to protect your cards. But like I care more about my playmats than the cards at this point. So like if there's something gonna mess up my cards, they're gonna mess up my playmat. I'm gonna be devastated. So there's essentially no point.
Yeah. The sleeves are also for your protection in a tournament as well, because if your cards are used, it could look like they're marked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't have to buy fancy ones though. Just buy whatever. But a lot of people have preferences on like what kind of texture they want on their sleeves or whatever.
Dragon Shield dual mat, but Dragon Shield is evil. There goes our shot at a Dragon Shield sponsorship. Dragon Shield is evil because they deliberately cut, I swear it's deliberate, cut the different boxes differently so you can't mix it up. I bought a case of Dragon Shield sleeves thinking I could mix and match between the 10 boxes in this case, and no, they were cut differently. You could feel as you were shuffling certain cards from the different boxes would stick out because they were cut completely differently.
That's such garbo. Yeah, I've just been using Game Genic. I like that they're kind of slippery. My first like sleeves for a while were the dual mat. I'm just not impressed with them. I don't know. They're fine.
Game Genic has like the nicest shuffle, but they're very short. Like there's not much
Yeah, they
room
are
at the
short.
top, and I don't like that because then I accidentally will push down things, and it's hard. I ruin cards easier.
That makes sense. I've not tried Katana. I hear those are good. Maybe I'll try those next.
Mm-hmm.
And I underestimated how much money I would have to spend on sleeves when I started this game.
Yeah, it's
Because
crazy.
anytime you do freaking anything, you got to buy a new set of sleeves for every tournament. It's insane. This is kind of a bad word. Should I say it anyway?
Just say it really fast. No one's gonna know.
Mm. President beep beep. That's Did
Yeah.
I? Do you have any advice for getting better at being a loser at set championships? I definitely mean more competitive as a personality, so the set championships are just really exciting to me. However, when I don't place in top four, it just bumps me out and makes me feel like I'm wasting my time with the game. This is after getting lucky and winning a Stitch last championship. Every cut I've missed, I've always been the next one out. I end up feeling a bit jealous over it all, less so about getting a prize, but jealous at others for having more time to do more stuff. Most of the regular competitors in my area go to 2 to 4 Lorcana events per week and 3 to 5 set championships, while I only have one weekly Lorcana night and can only go to one, maybe two championships due to other priorities. I really miss Pixelborn for the practice. I can fit in and on times throughout the day. I feel like a child spelling it out this way and even having these feelings at all. I only asked because your podcast after the Let's Championships were really down to earth and made me feel better. Does anyone else struggle with this? Our TCG's not for me. Glad you liked our last set championship recap. Not everyone did.
We got called the most mean names after that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this is something I struggle with terribly because I am a perfectionist, I am competitive, and I'm like if I can't be the winner, like literally, what is the point of me doing this? And it's something I try to get better at. I'm just in general trying to get better at enjoying life. So for me, the only thing that makes me care less about winning is being around other people who don't care as much about winning. So if I just like play with my friends casually, then I don't like get as stressed about it and I can just enjoy the game more. And that's not like great advice and not like super easy to implement. But for me, that's the only thing that like really helps.
I definitely get where you're coming from, especially like the jealousy that people can commit themselves to the game. I totally get that. 100%. It's just not possible for me. And it's like, I'm not worse than these people. I just don't have the time these people do. And I guess we've kind of said this many different ways over the time. But yeah, TCGs are kind of a luxury hobby. They take time, money, blah, blah, blah. If you don't have those things, like, yeah,
No, you're so right though. Like there are so many factors to being good at it, and then even if you're good at it, randomness is such a huge part of it.
Randomness.
Like you really do need to detach yourself from the results a little bit if you're going to enjoy playing these competitively. That's just true because you can't win all the time. You just can't. Like TCGs are made to create losers, and a lot more losers than there are winners on any tournament day.
That is very true. Yeah, you said in our last thing that like anything you can do to make things more enjoyable for you at tournaments, not involving winning, is like you'll be ultimately happier. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's definitely real. Um, you're so right about hanging out with people who don't care very much. My goal is always to be in the top half, and I generally do that because I know I just don't have the resources to be a competitive player. Um, I also liked what you said about being with people kind of like having the vibe that you want to have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It just reminded me of like college. I was in the honors college, and so like all my friends were really like smart and really wanted like A's and 100%, and that kind of thing was like very important to them. And it was not at all important to me, but I felt like this weird thing, like it should be important to me, but it never was. So I could totally see that hanging out with like competitive people being like, we gotta win. And I'm like, we have to win, you know? So
Well, that's what, like, sometimes it's like I convince myself that I don't care about winning, and then I go and I play someone who is either a bad winner or a bad loser, and suddenly I care about winning. Like, I just, like,
so real. That's unfortunate. But yeah, that doesn't mean TCGs aren't for you. I mean, maybe competitive is not for you at this time in your life. And I think that's okay if it's true.
oh, you know what, though? I knew I was going to struggle to answer this question because I can't figure it out myself. So I did pass this on to Katie, Lore Keeper's in Katie, because she's doing an episode with the psychologist. And I thought this was a
Oh,
good topic for it. So I did pass it on to her as well.
oh, nice. So she's going to talk about it on her show,
We'll see.
maybe.
We'll see.
Oh, I love it. That is a good question, and I love it. Shiny Horse asks, I'm curious what inspired Becky to go with a Tony to Pony from an American Tail accent versus the more British Basil voice in your awesome card reveal video. Great question. I've not seen an American Tail, but I think I can surmise what you're Honestly, I didn't prepare the voice. I just put on the mustache and the voice came out. Is it a New York accent I'm doing? I don't even know.
I didn't think it was.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
Literally, I just have to complain to you that for 2 days after we recorded that, I just kept being like, are you looking for items? I couldn't
Are
stop. I
you
couldn't
looking for
stop.
items? Yeah, I couldn't either. I am not good at accents, but once I started, I can't stop. And the reason I went with that, I guess, subconsciously, is I kind of wanted a bumbling detective, and Americans foolishly believe that people who are talking in British accents are competent all the time.
Great point. Very great. Very good point.
Yeah. So, but I had a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, I didn't plan for the voice. The voice just happened, and we went with it.
My favorite comments about it were there were actually a couple of people who were like, "I was so shocked at the end when Becky, when Detective Herb took off his mustache and was Becky the whole time."
Could you believe?
No, that was a
I
shock.
know. Everyone was shook that it was me because I was so seamlessly a detective.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was really fun filming with you. I really enjoyed it. I enjoy when we do stupid things like that.
Yeah, it's the dream.
The dream.
Yeah, Brandon asked you to do a whole podcast episode in that voice. Do you think you could do it?
Yeah, I could do it. You kept yelling at me when I was calling you toots, though.
Yeah, I did. I did not. Can't. You were like, "Can I call you that on the reveal?" I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm just showing you what the magic of a $2 mustache can bring.
It was funny. You were cracking me up.
Are you tacking Kim's interview onto this?
Yeah, I am. We had an interview with Enchanted Kim like 2 weeks ago at this point. Poor Kim. Things got busy and we didn't get the interview out earlier. But she did an awesome Princess Lorcana meetup that was really awesome, and we wanted to talk to her about it. Our final new best friend.
My only best friend. Ah, beautiful. This is our interview with Kim.
Today, we are super excited to be joined by Kim, who you may know as Enchanted Kim on social media. Welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is my first ever podcast, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, ours too.
Lies.
Well, this is our first podcast. Before we did this, I've never podcasted before. So
Okay, I get you.
I have some under my belt, but this was the first. So, Kim, we like to start with a little background. How did you get into Lorcana, and had you played a TCG before?
So I never played a TCG before. Lorcana is my first one. How I got into it is my boyfriend is a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. He's been playing for about 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super long time. And he and I are always looking for new things to do together. And like I've always been confused on like why he loves because he plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I was always confused on like why he was so into it. And then Lorcana was coming out or came out at this point, and he was like, well, you really love Disney. So he's like, we should try this together. And I was like, sure, I'll try it. Because at first he was like, oh, like I'm getting into this game and like you'll have fun opening packs and looking at like all the cool artwork. And I was like, okay, I do like this. And then, one day we were just kind of like, oh, like I think actually I was kind of like, I'm kind of interested to see how to play the game. And I think honestly he let me win the first few games just to like build confidence and like make me think I was like way better than I was. But even then it's like it worked out because then I was like, oh, like I can get into this and this is really fun. And maybe, we'll try going to locals. And after going to some locals and making friends, it's like I've just fallen so in love with the community. And I think too, living in an area that's so close to where Lorcana is being created, you end up meeting a lot of the people who work there. Like I've said in the Discord group, a few of my clients are people that work for Lorcana as a hairstylist. So it's like, oh, it just makes me feel even more connected to the game.
Wow, that's so cool.
Can we ask you to name drop? No, you don't have to.
No.
I've befriended
no
a bunch
pressure.
of them,
Just
yeah, I not to flex, but I have been one of my clients is which is great too is Allison. She's one of the lead game developers for Lorcana.
Oh,
so I think too like that just helps even more to know like, oh, like one of the lead people that are like making the game is a woman as well. And so yeah, like Allison, and then I've met Sky is another female on the team. One of the developers. I tend to know more of the developers because I think they've all just like cross-referenced each other as hair clients.
That is so cool. I can't.
Yeah. And then I've met Rochelle at a locals before too, at a Lorcana event. And so that's been pretty cool. Yeah, it's just meeting more people on the team. I've met Fletch a couple times in person. I've met Tim. Yeah, just lots of flex. But it's just really cool that I have those connections that I think just make me feel even more closer to the game. Because it's like, oh, knowing the people who created and seeing like how much passion they have into the project. Like every time I do Allie's hair, it's always she can't tell me too much about the game, obviously. But it is fun to talk to her like, oh, like what have been your favorite cards that have been released, or what are you excited about, seeing in the community and stuff. So just all those connections.
Yeah, there's kind of like that like stereotype joke kind of thing that people confess anything to their like hairstylist. So that's not happening. I guess it's not happening.
No, not at that level, unfortunately.
So sorry.
But like, I know. I know. I'm usually always like, I try not to go too hard on it, but sometimes I'll be like, so, you don't have to do this, but like, when are we getting this particular character? Or,
Right.
can you put that in for me? So I like to think that if we ever get Night Before Christmas cards, it's because of me and my constant begging of them.
I love
Nice.
that.
Thank you. We all appreciate that.
Right. And a better Honey Wizard card. That's another one I've been really like, make me better Winnie the Pooh cards.
Yeah.
So that actually was a fun surprise. I had no idea that was a thing. The so tempting to talk about the hairstylist of the Ravensburger staff, but
Right. Yeah.
one of the reasons we had asked you to talk with us today is because I saw something else really cool on your Instagram was that you hosted this afternoon tea meetup and play for Lorcana. It looks so awesome. But can you just tell us how that came about and what made you want to host that kind of event?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to, so the first time I ever went to a league was not great. Was
Mm.
not great, honestly. No one there was like horrible to me. It wasn't like, horrible stories like I've heard from other people, but it's just like I had never gone to a league before. And it was like a couple weeks of playing with my boyfriend, and he's like, oh, well, like you should like go to a locals and like check out the scene because like that's part of the fun. And I was like super intimidated of just like, well, I suck, or like I'm totally new to the game, so like I don't know if I'll be good, and like what if all the people there are super good, and also too, I feel like it's intimidating to go to a locals because they just tend to be very male dominated.
Mhm.
And of course, the first time I ever go to a locals, it was one that my boyfriend goes to this game store a lot for Yu-Gi-Oh! And it just tends to be a very competitive scene. And I think he just forgot about that. That it's like, oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene there is competitive. More than likely, all their games there are pretty competitive that they host. And so we get there, and there's one other girl at least, which was comforting. And then there were like four other people that were all guys, but everyone there was just super competitive. And I definitely just did not do well, which was a little discouraging. And I think too, just for it to be so like male dominated, just kind of added even more to like my fear of like, oh, is this like what every locals is going to be like? And then I ended up going to a few other ones afterwards because my girlfriend luckily was like, no, like there's plenty of stores, and like we'll try to find more, some that are more casual for you to just like get into it. And of course, like we did, and I felt better, but it still was very like male dominated. And luckily too, everyone that I've had encounters with has been like pretty great. And I've even gone back to the other competitive store, and we'll go there occasionally when I do want to get a lot more intentional practice for set champs. But yeah, then it kind of just like drew on me that, or like, I guess what happened was we flash forward to about 2 months ago, there was the new set release party for Set 4. And there's this one game store that's known for throwing like really big parties, and like their parties will get 50 plus people there. You'll have a lot of people from Ravensburger there, and it's all very like Disney fans.
Hmm.
And I talked to the owner there, and she was super nice. And then it was like a couple days later, I want to say, was when Pixelborn was announced that they were getting shut down. And for me, that kind of like had me panicked because I have like a really weird schedule because of doing hair. And so I can't always go to leagues. And so I kind of started to panic of like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to like practice? Because I've been trying to get more competitive. And it's like, okay, well, Pixelborn was how I would practice when it was like 10 p.m. at night after work, or, when I couldn't just go to a league easily. And so I already was like, okay, well, I want to set up some sort of Discord online with like my friends and like other friends in person and other like friends online. But then I was like, I don't have that many in-person friends was the problem. And then I saw some online friends starting to post that it's like, oh, because Pixelborn was shut down, they've never felt comfortable going to a league before. And so this kind of sparked this idea of like, oh, well, I want to have a meetup for a bunch of people in the local area, specifically marginalized genders, to get together and meet each other. Because I feel like if you have a friend to go with you to leagues or competitions, you'll be more inclined to go.
Mhm.
And then it kind of led to a lot of stress, even putting the idea out there, because I feel like I've seen it happen in the Magic community at at another local game store where they posted a like, hey, we're gonna have a night dedicated to, they called it gals and non-binary pals, and it got so much hate.
Yeah.
And I like panicked because I had told my boyfriend about this idea, and I was like, well, I want to post this in our local like PNW Facebook group, which has like over 1,000 members. And I was like, but I'm terrified of like if I post this, I'm gonna get like a lot of hate, and I just cannot mentally deal with that. But he was like, no, you should do it. The Lorcana community is way nicer, and like I think people would be understanding of what you're trying to do. And so I did post in a local Facebook group after like a whole day of just like going back and forth on the idea. And I was also kind of like, I'll get maybe like 2 people that want to do this. It ended up being a lot of people that were wanting to do it. And then local game stores reached out being like, oh, well, like if you want to make this an event, feel free to reach out. I had like 3 different stores reach out, but the store that had the really big party for set release was like, hey, like I'm, they were one of the stores that reached out, and I was like, well, I had a really good connection with you, and you already have such a good reputation for throwing parties. I'll partner with them.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it just kind of exploded into this like way bigger thing than I thought it would be, just because I wanted friends.
That's amazing. And I agree with so much that what you said, like, especially even with Pixelborn getting shut down. One of the first things I texted Becky is like, I worry this will impact women more because there are women who are uncomfortable going into game stores who were playing in Pixelborn. So yeah, like let's show them that they can play in person. This is like the perfect way to do that. One thing I wanted to mention or ask you about is you were worried about like posting that it was for women and non-binary people, but it looked like it was open to everyone on the invitation. Did you decide to open it to everyone?
Yeah, so I ended up deciding to open it to everyone because I didn't want women to feel like, okay, well, I can only go to this event that's only for women. Like this would be kind of like your like introductory to it that would help you then go into locals. And I also didn't want to exclude because I know, like, even coming from personal experience, like the first time I ever went to a locals was because like my boyfriend went with me, because if he didn't go with me, I'd be too scared because I don't have any other friends. And so I knew some people would want to do that, or, we even had like some of the people there were dads and they wanted to bring their daughters
Great
because like
point.
they're into the game and they wanted to bring their daughters in. And I didn't, especially as like a parent, I'd be like, yeah, no, I wouldn't want my kid to go by themselves. So I kind of just made it where it was open to everyone, but made it very clear in the marketing that it's like, oh, having like the princesses on our advertising and like all the advertising to be very like girly and pink, and marketing it as like a tea party, which is typically more feminine, to kind of just like steer towards a specific demographic.
Oh, perfect. Did I
Yeah.
see on one of your posts that it was like nearing a cap? It looked like there was a cap of 48.
Yeah, it was a cap of 48, and leading up to it, we had about 3 tickets left.
Oh, wow.
And then like day of the event, we had, I think, like 35 or 37 people show up overall, which is pretty good.
That's awesome. Was it like
Yeah.
mostly new players or more experienced players? What was that like?
It was a pretty good split. We had seasoned players because there are people that I knew personally from League, and then I like recognized them from other stores. We had so if they weren't seasoned players, they were definitely new players. A lot of people there was like, this is my first time ever going to a, locals type of event, because they saw, which I think is like exactly what I was trying to do, where it's like, oh, this is like a very safe space for me to go to. I'm going to try it out. And then from there, go to other events. So that was really exciting to hear that we had so many like new players. And then it was really exciting. I'm glad we're doing this podcast after this weekend, because on Saturday at one of my store champs, I saw a bunch of people from the Tea Party
Oh,
who have never done a store champs before. And they were like, oh, well, like I heard you were going, like some of the people from the Tea Party were going to this store champs. And I had so much fun at the Tea Party that I figured, why not check out store champs? And they had a great time as well.
yeah, that's perfect. So can you walk us through the event, what that day was like?
The day was a little chaotic. But I think too, it was because we had a month to plan it out, and I think I collaborated with a store owner that I said has a ton of like party planning experience. And then I also have a lot of party planning experience myself, just at like a smaller scale. And also like her and I are both business owners. I think we were both very good at really like planning out what we wanted the event to look like and understanding tone and emotion as well. Because I think that's what I'm really looking forward to with the guide I'm coming out with. Because one of the main things I wanted the event to be was that it wasn't a tournament. It was definitely like a casual meet up and play with people. But we had, I don't know if you saw it, this like paper that I made that was it was like quest for tickets where you had all these different objectives to win tickets for, which would be like, oh, if you came to the event dressed in a costume, or if you brought like a theme deck, that would get you a ticket. If you played for each like 1-versus-1 game you played with someone, that was a ticket. For each multiplayer game you played, that was like 3 tickets.
Nice.
And so it really encouraged everyone, especially like those newer players where it's like, oh, I may not be that good and I could go the whole day without winning any games, but I still have just as good of a shot like earning a prize in this raffle. And so yeah, the day it started off with me getting ready, wearing my princess outfit. And I got to the store about 2 hours early before the actual event started, because our event started at noon. And essentially we got things decorated. Luckily, people were like super generous in donating their time to help get things set up, because without them, I don't think everything would have been ready in time. Had a bunch of food delivered and got that set up, decorated the tables because I wanted it to feel just as much of a tea party as possible and to feel very different than your normal Lorcana tournament. Then, like around like 11:50 or so, we started to have people arrive, had them check in. Everyone just kind of sat at whichever tables they wanted to. And then around like 12:15, we just kind of had like opening announcements of like, hey, here's how the quest for raffle ticket is going to work. And I also initially set up where I set a timer on my phone for people to, because I didn't want to feel like too much of a tournament style, but I also was like, I don't want people to be shy and end up accidentally playing with the same person all day.
Yeah.
And so I set up a timer where it was like 45 minutes where it's like, okay, like, hey guys, it's been 45 minutes. Now's a good time if you want to switch around and like play with new people.
Oh, I love that so much.
And I did have to do that the first round because I think it's to be expected. The first round is always going to be super awkward. And it's like, people are just going to play with the people that they were sitting next to, which are usually the people they came with. But then afterwards, so after that first round, I kind of like was like, okay, walking around all the different tables, just letting people know. And then I think after that, people were because I think also during the first round, I took it upon myself to kind of start handing out tickets, which were for the, if you came dressed up and if you had a theme deck, which I think once people kind of saw the tickets, it kind of clicked for them of like, oh, I can actually win prizes. And so after the first round and seeing like tickets, and I think kind of like reading through the paper and seeing like, oh, if I do all these different things where I try to play as many people as possible, that really ups my chances to earn as many tickets as possible. And so then people were pretty on their own, just kind of like popcorning around who they were playing with, which was really good because after that, I didn't have to use the timer at all.
Oh, perfect. What kind of prizes did you have?
We had, luckily some prizes were donated by the store. And then, yeah, I just like chipped in for some prizes. Our prizes were, we had an Illumineer's Quest, we had a D100, and then we had 2 booster boxes, which one booster box we did where we gave a booster pack to everyone, just like who showed up. And then afterwards, we had an even amount where we just like split up the booster packs into like piles of 6. So I think in those packs or in those piles, it was like 3 booster packs to whoever won. And that kind of just helped like spread out the prizes. So it didn't feel like you just had 1 or 2 chances to win a prize. It kind of upped it to where you had 8 chances, which is pretty high for that many people.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And I think too, because it was a free event, doing just booster packs was not disappointing for people. Yeah, and I was pretty excited too that I was able to hop into 2 games because I was expecting not to be able to play the whole time I was there since I was running it, but I was also anticipating not having a chance to play, so I was pretty excited I did get to play. I played a 1 versus 1 brooms deck mirror match and a multiplayer game.
Aw, that's fun.
So that was really cool.
That's awesome. And you were saying that you were trying to like make it seem like a tea party and not just like a store. And gosh, you succeeded because the pictures of this event look amazing and everyone has to go look at your beautiful pictures because all the decorations were fantastic. The like tea party food spread was fantastic. Like everything just looks so incredible. You had like a photo op thing, it looked like a wall people could take pictures.
Yeah, that was really cool. So it really was like for this event was such a big like community effort because it's like the store owner is using, her like expertise and like her connections. Like she has someone who like caters a lot of their parties, and she told them about this event and they were like super generous to donate a lot of the food. And then me using like my connections with my clientele and like just like I would just be overall like excited to tell them about the event because clients will be like, oh, what do you have going on in the next couple weeks, or what's new. And I'd be like, oh, I'm like throwing this party. And one of my clients had recently thrown like an Alice in Wonderland themed party, and she was like, oh, well, I have a bunch of like greenery that you could use. And so she had this like giant green hedge that I was like, that would be really good for a photo op. And I just bought a bunch of flowers from like Dollar Tree that I cut up to just add to the hedge to make it very like, floral and pretty for pictures. So it was definitely just a big community effort.
That's so cool.
Did you have any highlights of the day that stuck out to you?
Yeah, there were a couple. I think the first one is just seeing all the costumes. And like just all the outfits. I definitely anticipate people being where they like wore dresses and like had tiaras, but I was definitely blown away by some of the costumes I saw. Like there was one couple that came as like a full-blown ball gown of Cinderella and like the full Prince Charming outfit. There was one family where the mom was dressed as like Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph, and their kids were dressed as like Ariel and the evil queen from Snow White. So I was just very impressed with just all the outfits. Another highlight that I think to me was very special was I played a multiplayer game with the same person. I had the broom deck mirror, and then it was a mom and daughter who I recognize the daughter because she comes in really often with her dad, because her dad is like one of the best local players in the area. Like I think he went to Atlanta too and got like top 128, and he's usually someone that like will top 8 or top 4 at our like 1K tournaments and our like set champs. And like his daughter got really into it. I don't know their whole like how they got into it, but that seems to be like their thing where they go together to stuff. And this time it was the mom that was there with the daughter, and I played with them during this multiplayer, and we ended up like talking a bit throughout it or like at the end. And she was telling me that she really liked this event because it was her first introduction to Lorcana, because they have like another kid who is a lot younger. So she usually will stay home with the youngest and the dad and the daughter's only like, I think like 7 or 8. So very young as well. But that's their thing. And so she thought it was really special that she got to have an opportunity to bond with her daughter over like something that she gets so excited about. And like this was her first ever like time ever going to a locals, and she was like, this is perfect for me. And she's like, I'm excited for the next one.
That's so cute.
And
Yeah.
then I ended up talking to the dad because he was like my round one opponent the following weekend at a set champs. And he was like, yeah, you know, my wife and daughter had so much fun. Like my wife was so excited to like really play Lorcana for the first time ever in like a not at home environment. So I was just like, great, that was like super special for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just hearing, I think afterwards, like at like the store champs the following weekend, and getting all the messages I've had where people are like, oh my gosh, like this was so much fun. Like this really helped me get more into the game and be more excited about going to locals. I think overall it just feels very special for me. And also I think another special thing was, so I convinced Allie, because again, she's one of my hair clients. Well, I didn't convince her, I invited her and she gladly came. And Sky as well also came. And I didn't want to advertise that they were coming because I also like don't want it to be where it's like, oh, you know, the game developers. Like I didn't really want to use them as my draw. Because again, too, it's like I don't know if they would want people to know that they were there, or that they were coming, or that they
Sure.
worked there. I think because also it's like I didn't want them to feel like this is another day of work for them.
Right.
But I found out later on that they told like people that they were playing with that they did work on Lorcana, or that they do work on Lorcana. And people were like also really excited about that, because again, seeing that female representation just built even more connection with the game, I feel like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Are you inspired, Becky? Do you want to host one of these?
I was thinking how we could do one ourselves. When the guide comes out, Katie, we'll have to take a peek.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. It sounds so incredible. Like it's like exactly what I want for this game, is like to create these
Absolutely.
spaces where people who wouldn't normally be comfortable playing a TCG are. It's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
So now that you've done this, is there anything that you would do differently, or advice you would give for, you know, us if we're interested to?
I think so. The only like big comment I had from people, which wasn't necessarily a negative thing, like if anything, this is like a positive, is that I should have charged for the event.
Mm.
Because we didn't. We did it as a free thing, and the store owner and I did invest like our own money into it, which wasn't a big deal. I think her and I are driven by enough passion that, you know, because for her, it's like this helps totally promote like her store. And, you know, as someone who also like she plays Arcana as well. And like when I told her this idea, she's like, well, we have to do this. Like, I need more female players at my league. And, you know, would like to see more in general. And then for me, it's just like I really want to push for that local community, because I don't want people to miss out on like how much fun Lorcana is, because they just don't feel comfortable in the space yet. But you know, it did cost not a ton of money, but it was something that's like, oh, if we had even charged like $5 or $10, that would help cover some of the like party decor and food costs mainly. Or it could help, you know, go into like potentially more prize support in the future. So I think that would be kind of like the only thing which I will put in the guide of just like, oh, and I think as well, like putting in a little bit of like a $5-10 charge for the ticket to keep it still pretty low so that's accessible to everyone, but also something to help avoid no-shows.
No. Yeah.
Even though we didn't get that many no-shows, it's like, oh, well, maybe if we did charge, we would have maybe less like people who didn't show up. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think there was anything that I would really change. Like I felt like it ran pretty smooth, and having just like, you know, a backup plan of like, oh, if I have to set a timer to keep the flow going, then it was there. But otherwise, like, no, everyone had a ton of fun, especially with the little objectives. Maybe in the future adding a few more objectives, but I also didn't want the list to be super overwhelming to look like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly seems like it went awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so you said you're going to be sharing a guide, and I know you already shared a few little like videos and vlogs, and I'm sure you'll share more. Can you let everyone know where they can find all of that stuff?
Yeah, so most of that or everything will be posted on my Instagram and TikTok, which is all Enchanted Kim. Yeah, and hopefully with Store Champs, it's just been really busy, but hopefully this coming week I'll have the guide done so that people can do their own. And I'm already planning another one.
Yay!
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So did you have anything else before we say goodbye to you today?
I just really hope that people end up doing this sort of event in their area, whether it's a tea party or they gain inspiration to, add their own spin on it, but using the guide as like here's how to not make it be a tournament and instead just a way to get as many people together to like play games and make friends. Cause that would just be so cool to see just all over. And yeah, it would just be great to just keep seeing the Lorcana community grow, especially in a more casual aspect, because I feel like sometimes it can be so heavily focused on the tournament and competitive. And I feel like, especially because of the Disney community, it can just be casual and really fun.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've like kind of in my head wanted to do something like this for so long, and like I didn't have like the slightest idea of what it would look like or how to go about it. And like as soon as I saw this, I'm like, we have to get her on the podcast because this is just like incredible. So I agree. I hope more people do it too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kim. I really appreciate all of your awesome advice.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I had a lot of fun talking about it.
Well, I guess we will see you around the internet very soon.
All right. Maybe I'll hopefully see you guys at a Lorcana challenge.
That would be great.
Yes.
Absolutely. I imagine you'll try to be in Seattle.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to be there one way or another.
Awesome.
It's like just catch if I don't get a ticket, I'll just be outside. Be like,
Hey,
I'll cheer you on from outside.
Yeah.
We'll come say hi to you outside for sure.
If we get in.
Great, I'll figure out a way.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
That was our interview with Kim. Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. That can't be overstated. Thank you for letting us be part of a little piece of your Lorcana journey. Be sure to keep up with us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be posting there, having fun. We will still be keeping our Discord operational, so feel free to drop in there, hang out with us. I don't know where we'll be posting invites to that in the future. Do you know?
Maybe I should do a link tree like all the cool kids do.
We're going to have a link tree, maybe.
Okay. And not until next time.
No!
Well, this isn't our last episode. It'll be like 3 months from now. We'll be like, oh, we have to talk about this thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, until next time, remember to live, laugh, and lore.
Yay. Good show, everybody. Good show.
Good show.